All right, and we're back for another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break. Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows, and if you can, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Lakers Fast Break, it is sincerely appreciated. Was that the Lakers I saw tonight? Was that the same Lakers I saw losing in terrible fashions on both Friday and Sunday? Yes, it was, but it was an altogether different Lakers team. And the week, 24 hours is just so much different for us. We went from like a funeral, like we all needed to dress in black or something because it was looking pretty grim for us. We were all very unhappy. LRob came on the show just wanting to talk to us for therapy. It was getting so bad for the Lakers. But wouldn't you know, 24 hours later, without LeBron and without Dennis Schroder, LeBron is a day-to-day with his ankle, so it's not too serious. But Dennis Schroder is out for 10 to 14 days due to health and safety protocols. I hope it's not what I think it is, but it probably is. But, without those two, the Lakers were able to go ahead and take on one of the hottest teams in the NBA, the Denver Nuggets. And, yes, Felix is here. We definitely got our mojo back with a great win tonight. And you know what? Anthony Davis looking very strong, 25 points tonight, 7 rebounds and 3 block shots. But to me, the key to this victory was the fourth quarter, and I'm going to hear it from LakerTom, and 2 individuals that almost had to dust the cobwebs off them because Wes Matthews and Marc Gasol gave the team a big lift when they needed it the most. And they pulled away at points up to as many as 15 points, a 15-point lead in the fourth quarter. Very good performance. Denver came back, storming back, as we knew they would because they are a great team. But you know what? The Lakers did pull it out in the end. And you're right, Felix. Defense wins championships. And you know what? The Lakers, after 2 horrible defensive performances, and what some around here have been saying was 2 really lousy coaching performances. I thought Friday was worse than Sunday, but both were pretty bad. I will tell you right now, I want to go ahead and say, you know what? Frank Vogel drew up something really good for the Lakers as far as from a defensive standpoint, and they win 93-89, holding Nikola Jokic on his way to pick up his first MVP. He struggled 12 for 28, 32 points, but it really took a lot of shots. Michael Porter Jr. struggled with 19 points himself. Denver was really out of sorts all game long, and I only can attest to the Lakers' defensive presence and performance tonight. And here today to talk about the game are 2 great guests indeed. You notice we're back now 24 hours later after the funeral pyre that seemed to be lifting high with all the burning and all the incense and all the stuff that's going on, and we were so depressed. We've got all smiles today. I'm going to go ahead and hit up first the man who I need to come sometimes to therapy, a good man indeed from Detroit, Michigan. It is LRob. And LRob, great to have you back 24 hours later. I don't think you're here for therapy this time around.
No, I'm here to celebrate a little bit now. We've been down in the valley for, it seems like forever. So it's good to have some array of sunshine shine through, and kudos to, like you said, Gasol. He definitely was the difference maker today. He brought the energy. He hit big shots. He played. He played like the Marc Gasol we were hoping we were getting at the beginning of the year. And then Matthews always plays so hard defensively, so it's good to see him knock down some shots too. The defensive intensity from the beginning, you can see they were hungry. So I think that's what we left off yesterday. It's like, I don't care if they don't make any shots. Just play good defense. Just play tough defense. And usually when you do that, you'll end up hitting some shots. I mean, energy creates opportunities. And I definitely want to give a shout out to Kuz. He didn't do much offensively, but he really hounded Porter in the first half. So things that didn't show up in the box score. There's a reason.
It's personal between those two. You know that, right? Ever since the bubble.
Yeah, and Kuz has usually been on the losing end of that personal battle. So I'm glad today he didn't take it personal where he tried to go back at him. All of them, whoever was on him, Caruso struggled handling the ball, but when he was switched out on Porter, he was up into him. KCP was. The defensive was really good. You see AD set the tone. He went in trying to dunk the ball. He shot going toward the basket a lot today instead of shooting fadeaways, at least in the first half. He was in more of an attack mode. So, no complaints really. It was a good all-around effort. Everybody who played hard and contributed. Wasn't too many lapses. Jokic missed a lot of shots he normally would make, and so I'm not going to go too much. And Denver, was without a lot of guys, but still they had been on a roll too, 9 out of 10, so or something like that, 8 out of 9 or something. So they had been playing good ball. Maybe they were due for a stinker. I'm glad it happened against us.
Yes, Admiral Akbar threw out the trap, and the Nuggets this time fell right in it. And I will say this, that with the Lakers playing like this, it brings some hope to us. And Felix is saying it right. The coach is getting the formula ready to get the job done as the playoffs approach. Well, it's all about defense. As long as the Lakers can play this level of defense, they can keep themselves into any ball game with any team out there. And Anthony Davis, after last night's performance, was really angry. He made a lot of comments in regards to something we've seen before already once or twice this season when he was playing before, where he was upset with his own performance. And he was upset with the team's performance. So he played very inspired today. And then you have, like LakerTom was laughing at, which we didn't comment on last night's show, now LeBron with this thought of possibly being 7th. Well, as it was, but we'll give you an update on the standings here in a sec. He was really mad about, the 7th, the possibility of the play-in tournament and not liking the play-in tournament concept at all. Funny how that happens to both LeBron and also as well, from Dallas as far as Doncic is concerned. They're both not liking it when they're around 7. So you notice how that happens. So I'm assuming that, it doesn't really matter for them when they're not in 7th, but as they get closer, boy, they really don't like those play-in tournaments. They really don't like playing those extra games. Felix says, been at a real funeral, and I was told we were playing as we were dead. I said, oh, ye of little faith, but the Lakers got this, and they did. They did. It's a start and the beginning of a tough week. Sunday and Monday, they did split, not the kind of split we thought we would get, but it was definitely a great performance today from the defensive side of things. And here today, AD was saying we were playing with no swag. So thank you, Felix, for bringing that up. Exactly. They were not playing with any swag, any confidence, any inspiration. They didn't have any sense of urgency. And today they showed that in spades. But here today to talk about the game as well as a good man indeed. He is the mastermind behind LakerHolics.com. It is LakerTom. And LakerTom, some of the things that you've been asking for ad nauseum showed up. It's so funny because Marc Gasol was the bane of your existence when he was in the starting lineup. And then he became your inspiration for getting him back into the lineup. This is how he's got to play each and every time out. Otherwise, he goes back to, like we said, the bane of your existence once again.
You sort of wonder about a guy who's won a world championship, has won honors in his own country and played internationally for years, and who knows he's at the end of his career, and sort of had a guaranteed starting job at the first half of the season. And then there just became the pressure that we went through that streak where we were giving up big leads and going into the second quarter behind every game. And then the pressure, mounted and Gasol sort of fell out of favor, and then he resurrected himself, came back and played well, but then he fell out of favor again. There's in a game like tonight, I think that one of the things that happened with Marc is that getting benched like that a couple of times when he thought he'd earned his starting role, for a prideful guy like that, I think it really got his competitive juices going. for one thing, he started looking for a shot. He started taking those threes and being aggressive on those. And I was really thrilled to see this happen. I mean, I had predicted on Lakerholics.com several times that this stretch of 3 games, this game tonight, the game against the Clippers on Thursday, and the Friday night game against the Blazers, those 3 games were going to determine what's really going to happen to the Lakers. And I always felt that those were opportunities. Those were the games that Drummond would have to really come up big in order to hold his position, because the team would have to do well. And I'm just very distrustful of Andre's ability to impact the lineup. I mean, Gasol was plus 17 tonight, team high. Drummond was minus 11, team low. And I thought Andre played okay. It's just that for every 2 or 3 pluses that you give him, there's going to be 2 or 3 minuses. It's almost like it's inevitable that happens with a game. But, there's a lot of things to be grateful about the game. Some obvious things. We won the game, and we really needed that, because now we're 5th instead of 7th, and that's a big deal. And AD came back. That's another big part of the game. And our defense that we thought we lost completely came back. I mean, I must have written about 20 or 30 comments on just how devastating the loss of camaraderie and chemistry in the team. And it looked like a team that's quit or that's done or that's been cooked. So it's good to see all of those things really happening. I think, to me, the biggest thing is seeing how much more room to operate everybody has when Marc Gasol is in the game. And I think that Gasol, you look at the 3 centers we have, and 2 of them have won championships. Marc Gasol and Anthony Davis. Those are the 2 guys that should be playing. And the biggest thing that came out of this game maybe was not the win, maybe was not locking up, at least for a moment or a day, the number 5 seed. The biggest thing might be the pressure that this is going to put, because we have some matchups, for example, against the Jazz, where they have 2 low post centers. We have matchups that Gasol is going to be a really primary important weapon, because he's the only one other than AD playing a lot of 5 that can stretch the floor. And I think we just saw tonight that there's another one of the obvious opponents that we're going to meet in the Nuggets. And I thought Gasol played as good a defense as anybody else did on Joker tonight. He harassed him. He's got good hands. He made him miss a lot of bunnies. He's physical with him. I thought he did a great job in that sense. So, not an elite job, but I mean, Nikola can take anybody to the woodshed. So, it's not, you can't prevent that from happening. All you can do is minimize it. And I thought we did a good job of minimizing it. I mean, I couldn't believe a couple of those shots that he threw up. I didn't even know if it was a one-legged shot or a no-legged shot or what it was that he did from the free throw line twice tonight. I mean, and when you get him underneath, it's like having a football player stand there. So if he can just throw a little jump hook, you can't even get close to blocking it because the guy's so wide. At any rate, big win for the Lakers. It's funny, talk about the difference that a day makes. If you were to look at Lakers Twitter yesterday versus Lakers Twitter right now, I mean, I have to admit, I must have commented and liked half a dozen, comments by people that the Lakers were cooked for this point in time. So sports is a crazy thing. It changes. One day you're up and one day you're down. And right now we're up.
Right now we're up indeed. Once again, the Lakers did pull out a nice victory, 93-89 over the Denver Nuggets, putting them at 5th once again in the Western Conference, a half game ahead of Dallas, and also a full game ahead of Portland. So right now, again, the Lakers are in 5th, Dallas is in 6th, a half game behind, and Portland is 1 full game behind in 7th. We're hoping it will stay that way. We'll wait and see. But LRob, you got to be impressed with how the Lakers found a defensive intensity. I think they were mad. They played like they were angry today. They played like they know they've been disappointing a lot of people.
Yes, they play like champions. They play like they had some pride in their work. They played like they, cared about where they finished in the standing. So, as fans, that's all you want. You want guys to come out and play with some intensity.
No, we want wins too.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Tom?
I said we want wins too.
Well, yeah, but if you do those things, then wins will usually follow.
I understand that.
You definitely want wins. It's only so much we can take of them playing hard if they weren't winning. They play with some intensity. They play like they care. So good for them. I mean, we shouldn't be to the point where we're crediting them for playing hard. That should be a given. That's what you expect out of a team that aspires to win a championship. But, you got to take baby steps, and this was a step in the right direction. And you instill some more confidence in some more guys, and now you got more guys that could possibly play. So we'll have more things to.
We didn't narrow the rotation much, did we?
No. See,
we expanded it and confused
it.
When
you expand the rotation and you win, it's great coaching. When you expand the rotation and you lose, you're
exactly.
Wrong.
Well, that's it. It's who do I send in, you or you?
Well, Drummond,
Drummond getting Horton was good today. Seeing him go to the basket, I thought at first he kept getting into the paint and looked up and seen JaVale there, and he would not try to finish over JaVale. I'm like, you still gotta, quit getting into the paint and not taking your shot. You still gotta attack this guy. I know he's a shot blocker, and finally one time he flipped it up and he scored over him. So I thought he was really, really important. When he was in there too. So kudos to THT for his game.
Well, I'll tell you what, and we talked about this before, LRob, with LakerTom and yourself. When you're playing a 20-year-old, you're going to get that constant up and down from him each and every game, each and every quarter. I mean, there's still mistakes that he made today that only a 20-year-old makes. But again, you also see the youthful exuberance. You see the athleticism. You see the little things there. Now, mind you, I agree with LakerTom. I think they should have traded for Kyle Lowry, but you didn't. I mean, THT is still a nice problem to have as far as it's concerned because you're trying to grow and mature him if you're intending to keep him long term. So there are some benefits to keeping him, and I'm hoping that he will go ahead and his game matures. He knows what he needs to work on. I also like to see him finish more consistently around the basket because if he likes to go to the basket, you need to finish more. A lot of his layups roll off the rim, which I'm kind of concerned about. He needs to have a little bit higher percentage of finishing at the rim. I mean, sometimes he makes these shots more difficult for himself. Even when there's not a hand up there, he'll try reverse. He'll try behind the backboard. He'll try other things.
They're not high percentage shots.
And he'll make
they're low percentage shots it's amazing that he makes them.
Yeah, sometimes he'll go in with a shot that he can make rather easily, but he's thinking someone's going to have a hand up, so he'll make himself a harder shot, and that's what happens ultimately sometimes. So I know that, again, he's 20, so there's a lot of room to grow, and I'm willing to see, especially if he can go ahead and do things like he did in the last minute of the game where he got that layup when we needed it, got us ahead of, that was the clincher for us right there. Yeah, so again, THT, and playing in the clutch time like that.
And not being afraid to drive, not being afraid to make that mistake in the first place. That was a wild spin shot that he threw up there off of the basket.
Yeah,
he got that rebound and totally wrong because he always makes those shots that reverse layups.
But you guys were talking all over each other. Go ahead, LRob.
No, I was saying if Gasol don't put pressure on Joker on a rebound off the initial miss, then THT doesn't get the chance to get the easy putback on the rebound. So that's just another little thing. Gasol, I mean, he's such a smart player. When he's in there and he's playing good, that's something that he has over Dre and over Harrell. It's just his basketball IQ is just smarter.
And he's engaged now. He's engaged now when he wasn't earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Simply getting benched and knowing that Andre's on the bench. I love the idea of doing with him what we did with JaVale last year. Start him. Just give him like a good 9 minutes. It's 6 minutes or 9 minutes at the start.
That doesn't
play Drummond in the middle and then play AD at the end.
Well, Tom, that did not originate with the Lakers. JaVale had that same slot. I think one of the years that they won a championship, he was starting.
No, it's
one of those years.
Way to keep him involved in the game and so forth.
Yeah.
And then you still give Drummond 20 minutes in the middle, and let Drummond go against the second string centers because they'll have a much harder job of stopping him. Mm-hmm. And I like the fact that, that championship experience that in addition to the basketball IQ that Lee's talking about, it's also that championship experience that Marc has that he could be the Rondo factor in these playoffs, in my opinion.
Well, let's hope that's the case because, you and I were on Rondo's case for 2 seasons before he showed up. And I was the last to get on the Rondo train. I'm going to be the first to get on it this year because he did look good the other day for the Clippers.
Yeah,
and
he did.
So did DeMarcus Cousins. And I'm going to say that again. I think the Lakers did throw a strike. I thought they should have gotten DeMarcus. I agree with Tom. This is what we were talking about last week. I know, LRob, you were on the side of Andre Drummond. But, with Andre's lack of mobility sometimes, his sense of court awareness, I mean, he picked up 4 fouls really quickly today and made himself ineffective at times. I mean, sometimes it's really hard to gauge how effective Andre Drummond impacts the actual game.
Can you imagine him if he had Marc Gasol's brain? I mean, if we could put those two together.
All right. Give back to Jamie's Dr. Frankenstein. But go ahead, LRob.
Drummond has a tendency when he's playing against an elite player to try to do too much. And he wants to prove he's on their level, and he's not. So usually that results into him making some stupid fouls and making some plays that he shouldn't make instead of just playing his game and playing to his strengths. But he set the tone by making Joker work today. He did not give him anything easily. He had a couple, maybe one cheap foul, but most of those he was being physical with them. So he set the tone. If he doesn't start and set that tone with Joker, I'm a big believer in if you never let somebody get started. I mean, that's how Siakam killed us yesterday. AD wasn't engaged at the beginning of the game. And once he got rolling, you know what? He was going to be a handful all night. So I thought Drummond did a good job.
Most of the game defensively.
Yeah, I thought his defensive approach to the game, he was right up in Joker early in the game, and he made him uncomfortable from the beginning. And I thought that set the tone. So I don't want that to be totally overlooked, even though, sometimes the plus minus, he didn't look like he was a minus 11. I didn't feel like he was the reason why the Lakers were, weren't playing as well when he was in the game. A lot of those turnovers, Caruso and those guys get in the lane. He set picks for them. They get in the lane. You got a wide open 12-footer. What are you doing? Shoot the ball.
I say this.
Why are you trying to throw an alley-oop to Drummond and you're wide open from 5 feet? Some of that you can't blame on Dre. So,
LRob, if you ask me in a playoff series in each of the games, if it takes Jokic 28 shots to get 32 points, I'm going to say I'll take it. Yes. That means a lot of the share is going to him, and it's not going all to everybody else. And that means the team really needs him to perform. And that usually means that you're leading the game. Because if he's taking that many shots, if he's putting that much on himself, for someone who loves to pass the ball like he does, that means that there's a lot of work that he's trying to do all onto himself. And even him as the MVP is doing too much. And that tells me that the Lakers or whatever team is facing off against him are actually either very competitive or winning the game at that point in time. So, yeah, I will take 28 shots on 32 points any day of the week for Jokic. But, Tom, go ahead.
That's a great point. I think the other thing that you just got to realize is what kind of defense we played tonight. We rarely doubled Joker.
And he found himself a lot against smaller guys.
That's not the way we played them in the past, because in the past, we've done a lot of doubling of Joker.
Yeah.
Primarily because he was just abusing everybody else that we put on him.
Yeah.
But you'll notice what this did in this game. They had only 7 3-pointers made. We won 21 points at the three. We had 7 more 3-pointers than they did. And the reason is because we did not double to leave those open 3-point shooters out there to take the threes that they got. So that was interesting, and I'm sure the strategy would have been had they, had Joker started to really destroy us, because he missed a lot of bunnies. He missed about as many bunnies as Andre missed at the other end. There was a point in time where the game was just guys missing easy layups, But the defensive strategy of feeling that our centers, Drummond included, and Gasol, and even Trez for a few plays, could hold our own against him, really worked out pretty well. And we didn't have to double him, which, it's interesting. Everybody, and maybe it's the horror that we were all in last night, the sort of griefs that we were going through after that loss. But in some ways,
if we were all together, Tom, if we were all together in the room, we would be crying on each other's shoulders last night. Right. We would have been passing around the Kleenex. So, LRob, here's some.
All of us, we forgot. But we forgot a few things. We forgot a few things, including number one, that this team really can play defense. Number two, Anthony Davis really is a superstar. And number three, they don't have Jamal Murray. That's a big loss.
Yeah, but number 4 and 5, we didn't have LeBron and Dennis Schroder.
We did this tonight without LeBron and without Dennis. I mean, remember we used to say that our first round pick right now we're lined up to play the Clippers in the first round because they're the 4th seed. Although we knocked Denver down, so they're both tied in the loss column.
Well, you had also stated in a previous couple games, one of which we were all crying on each other's shoulders for, was that a lot of crying. Believe me, a lot of crying. Was that since AD's come back, the defense hasn't been as good.
It hasn't been, and AD hasn't played good defense all year long. He's shown signs of it, and tonight was like the best signs we've seen. But anyway, the point is that the Nuggets were one of the teams that we thought, hey, if you got to choose who we're going to play in the first round to have as easy a march to the championship as you possibly can, it's the Nuggets. You don't want to play the Clippers in the first round, especially with LeBron and AD not fully recovered. We want to play them at latest possible.
That
I
sounds
think
like
that
a
we
complete opposite of what LakerTom.
I've never felt the Nuggets were the team to threaten us. I didn't think they were last year, and I don't think they are this year.
Okay, the LakerTom I know would have told me, "Oh, bring the Clippers on first round. Oh, we'll play them in the play-in." Come on, that's the LakerTom I would know. I want the hardest one. I want the hardest one possible. I want the hardest schedule possible.
I think that's fine. Gerald, the point when I was saying that was when we had a team that was healthy, playing extremely well, and all they needed was motivation.
Okay.
Rather than cruising through the first to second round. That's what I said last year about the bubble, because the bubble is a situation where everybody's had 4 months off.
Isn't the famous Tom quote, is the harder the better? That's what I think.
Everything has a context, Gerald. Everything has a context.
Okay. I'm just teasing you.
No, I know. But it's interesting because the Nuggets.
Your sayings, any of your predictions, any of your quotes, Tom. So.
Well, it all comes back to
that's one of the problems, Lee. When you open your mouth as many times as I do, there's a whole lot of evidence out there for people to criticize you. So it's all in fun anyway.
Hey, I got criticized recently for saying it wasn't yet last night the worst Frank Vogel coaching job. I didn't say it wasn't bad. It was horrible. I thought Fridays was worse.
Don't start fights.
Oh, it's already started. I'm just like, I didn't want to fight at all. I'm just, it is what it is. I mean, it was a bad coaching job, but I thought it was.
Well, I sure hope we don't play the Clippers in the first round.
Okay.
Wouldn't you rather play the Clippers in, the nice thing about the 4th and 5th slots, the 4th and 5th seeds, is they avoid the they avoid the top teams, the top two teams. See, so
I'm-
you end up playing the winner of the 3 and 6 series.
I've kidnapped it, Tom. I am of the mindset if you are going to win a championship, if you are the Los Angeles Lakers, we didn't suddenly morph into the Portland Trail Blazers or somebody. Yeah, we got beat down a lot, but I mean, I'm not taking on Portland's mentality or some Dallas Maverick mentality. We are the Lakers. If we are going to win the championship, we're going to have to beat whoever's in front of us. So all of this about trying to play somebody at a certain time and frame. LeBron James, if he wants to be the GOAT, he needs to have this championship. He needs to put this notch on his belt. The clock is ticking. AD, if you want to be thought of as a great player, you got to back it up. One championship doesn't do it. We've seen that.
Well, I was going to say, he sounds more like me. So I think it was like a Freaky Friday thing where we switched bodies. I think because that does not sound like LakerTom at all. Bring back LakerTom. LakerTom.
You won't have to worry about it because the Clippers are going to work real hard to get the number 3 slot. Okay. Because they don't want to play the Lakers. The last thing that they want to do is play the Lakers in the first round. Is Kawhi even playing again?
Well, they're tied right now with Denver, although they
22 losses each.
Yeah, but they lose out on the tiebreaker, so they're currently fourth.
That's why they're in a tough position because if they beat us, then they move up and they push us down. So they're damned if they do, and damned if they don't.
Well, guys, it's been
the Clippers got an easy schedule though. The rest of the way, Denver's got a pretty much tougher schedule.
Well, definitely it's going to be interesting to see how this all shapes out. But the Lakers, at a time where they needed it the most, did pull it out without LeBron, without Dennis Schroder. Once again, Dennis Schroder is out 10 to 14 days due to health and safety protocols. And LeBron, yeah, well, you know.
Get vaccinated, Dennis. Get vaccinated, Lee.
I'm not going there.
War, they come after you if you don't get vaccinated. They come after you hard, Dennis. So
yeah, I'm not saying anything.
I am vaccinated. Tax deductions for everybody who gets a vaccination.
Why didn't you pull LeBron into that conversation? Is what I don't understand. No one asked him about who had not been vaccinated. Why would he say me and LeBron?
LeBron had said before that he didn't want to do the vaccine.
But LeBron hadn't publicly came out and said he had not been vaccinated.
Yeah, he came out even before that and said he wasn't going to be vaccinated.
Okay, I didn't know if he made a definitive statement.
Well, he made it definitive enough that everybody who heard the statement, it was something like
between the lines,
no matter or something like that, you know, where he avoided answering it so that
you're reading between the lines.
You read between the lines. He did not come out and say that though. So if Dennis came out and said that, he outed him, which wasn't cool.
Well, it is.
Did LeBron have the game tonight?
I don't know. I mean, he's maybe working on that ankle. Well, he's working on that ankle. So, but it's a day-to-day for LeBron. It's not too serious. And as far as vaccinations goes, I'm happy that I'm hearing the news that possibly my daughters could be vaccinated here within the next couple weeks. So
I've heard that a week. I want to get my 2 granddaughters vaccinated.
Can they play point guard?
Sorry?
Can they play point guard? Can one of them sub in for Dennis then?
Oh, there you go. Absolutely. You know what? I think both of them, they'd give it a shot. They would give it a shot indeed. I know my oldest would. My oldest definitely would, especially if you throw a contract at her. You know,
my granddaughter.
If she gets a G League contract or even a 2-way, she'll take that as far as a 2-way contract. All right, there you go. That's 400 grand. She'll take that.
My granddaughter will be she's playing 8th grade middle school basketball now, but she also played AAU and she's a very small point guard. If you go onto my user page at my member page at Lakerholics.com, you can see her posing with Magic Johnson. But Mia's a great ball handler and a hound on defense, shoots the 3-point shot, does a Euro step, does step back jump shots. For a 14-year-old girl, it's really pretty amazing. So I've coached her between my son and I, we've coached her for 5 years of AAU and CYO basketball. So she's the point guard.
And I also want to go ahead while we're talking about daughters, want to say a special wish to Vanessa Bryant and the Bryant, as far as the Bryant family.
Mambasita.
Mambasita, the clothing line in honor of Gigi Bryant. So if you're interested, go ahead and check out the new Mambasita clothing line for her, dedicated in her memory. Looks really cool. Nice tie-dye jumpsuit. In fact, the Golden State Warriors, in a sign of real class, wore it on her birthday because the Lakers weren't scheduled that day. Although everybody except for Kuzma got the message to go ahead and do that, as far as wear it. So I don't know about that. But all right. But nonetheless, please go check out the great Gigi Bryant Mambasita clothing line in honor of Gigi Bryant whenever you can. But guys, it's been a great episode, very spirited. You notice how we're all in such a talkative mood where everything's good. I drove 300 miles to get back here, and I'm still energetic enough to go ahead and talk about the game because the Lakers won 93-89.
Wait till Thursday.
Wait till Thursday. Wait till Thursday. But we'll talk about that in a sec. Felix, you've been great on the comments all show long. Good job, gents. Well, good job to you as well. Thank you so much for listening. Also want to say a special thank you to Chris and also AIM, who send us likes, hearts, and all that. So we truly appreciate it. If you want to go ahead and have a question for us at Lakers Fast Break, also as well, LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com. Please support the great podcast on the Hoopheads Podcast Network. And, of course, everyone with all the comments, including LRob, LakerTom, I think Sean Grice is still there. Who knows, day by day. And also as well, Admiral Akbar, Jamie Sweet himself. You're going to go and check it out at Lakerholics.com. He's a great guy, but I don't know. He's very spirited today. So you got to go ahead and check out his comments are there. And I will say and I'll leave it at that. But guys, it's been a great episode. Any last thoughts, LRob? Because we will be back on Thursday right after the Clippers game. But any last thoughts on what they need to go ahead and do to keep this momentum going into a matchup against their LA City rivals?
Bring the same attitude and desperation they brought to the game. It starts with the attitude. So we know the Clippers. I think the Clippers view the Lakers game as a little more important than the Lakers in times past. So they would bring a little more intensity than the Lakers. So I think with the Lakers being in the position they are in, I would be very surprised if they didn't bring some intensity Thursday. So it should be a good game. LeBron will be a little rested. AD will be building off of this game. So, yeah, I'm expecting a very spirited game. So,
As am I. You think LeBron will be back?
Absolutely. LeBron could have played today. I don't believe there's anything wrong with him.
He is a cyborg. That's true.
Yeah, just a little tweak. Nothing really. No, he could have played today.
If it was playoffs, I'm sure he would have been back. But LakerTom, before we head on out, you got to go ahead and pitch that site of yours, medium.com, and, of course, what you're doing for Lakerholics.com.
Well, what's really interesting is we're going from one big game now to an even bigger game.
And then an even bigger game.
Yeah, because one of the things the Lakers can do by winning is it's kind of interesting because if we win and we beat the Clippers, we're going to push them down into the 4 spot. We're going to keep them further from the 3 slot, and we're going to help the Denver Nuggets. So there's a plus and a minus to winning this game against the Clippers.
But if they lose, they go to 7th, possibly.
Well, if they lose, they'll still probably be 5, but the Clippers will move up to 3rd and drop the Denver Nuggets, whom we just took care of fairly easily without LeBron. So, and of course, if you get caught in these machinations for every game that goes for the rest of the season, you'll go crazy because there's still too many things you can't factor. So you go in there and you try to win the game. I think tonight's game was the first game in a long time, because of the injuries to LeBron and the injuries to AD, that the team was actually 100% focused on the game. They weren't looking ahead. They weren't looking behind. They weren't, you just came back, so you're not going to be as good, LeBron. But they really came to play business, and they really had focus at the start of the game. And the defense was relentless all night long, even after getting beaten on a couple of plays where you'd be embarrassed. They still hung tough. What what I think is going to be fascinating to discuss on the site over the next few days, because not only will LeBron get a little more rest, but he might get a couple practices in there, because they got, they don't play till Thursday night now. So we've got Tuesday and Wednesday that they could easily get into practice, at least one good practice, and probably some shoot around and working stuff. So, and they need that. And of course, Frank Vogel's job's not any easier, because Marc Gasol and Wesley Matthews basically pushed themselves right back into the rotation. And, and I'm thinking now that, I wrote an article about how I thought Vogel could actually go with a 12-man rotation where, and it's one of those 12-man rotation when, if you look at the end of a week or 2 weeks period, everybody's got a certain amount of hours, but if you add the time up, it's more than 48 minutes a game. It's because some guys haven't played. So you take the 12-man rotation and you bench 2 or 3 of the guys every game. Okay, this is your game, Wes. You're going to be out, and somebody else is going to be out, and maybe KCP. And the next time maybe it's THT, and maybe it's Morris, and so forth. And so everybody plays 3 or, and LeBron and AD play every game, but the rest of the guys play 3 or 4 games depending on the matchups. If this is a team where they've got a defensive center or low post defensive center like Rudy Gobert, you play Gasol. Gasol's going to get the nod there because he can pull him out of the paint and make it a lot easier for LeBron and AD and everybody to score. And then there's other situations where Drummond might be the better option to start the game and so forth. And the same thing goes through with the rest of the players. If somebody's shooting hot, he may get some time, but you still play in a 9-man rotation most of the time. But you have 10 or 12 players who are involved in that, and you just choose based upon matchups and who's playing well and who's not playing well, who plays that particular game. We're going to be focused on the Clippers game, and I think it's a good opportunity for the Lakers to make a statement.
What kind of statement will that be? We'll have to find out on Thursday. So I'll tell you what, you come back after you watch the game and you check us out right here. Hopefully these faces will all be smiling once again when we come back on Thursday night. LRob, I know it's late for you, but I tell you what, it's just so great to have you here. LakerTom, great to see your smile once again after such anger and such fire and vitriol past couple days. I'll tell you what, it's great to see you guys back, happy once again, and I'm also glad to see the Lakers fans, J. John, Aim, Felix, Chris. Thank you so much for the love. Everybody who watched and everybody who listened tonight. Check us out again on Thursday night after the game against the LA Clippers. We want to see you here. We want to listen. We want to make sure that you're listening. We want to make sure you're watching us. It's the Lakers Fast Break. And as J. John Sarceda says himself, it's the Lakers win or lose. So, yes, the Lakers all the way. Once again, it's Gerald, LakerTom, and LRob. We will see you Thursday night after the Clippers game right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.